Hello, and welcome back for another ACCA recording where I'm going to take you through in this video 5 mistakes you do not want to be making ahead of your ACCA SBL examination for the June 2025 sitting for the pre-C materials on Dearn Shoes Ltd. My name is James, I'm an ACCA qualified member and I help out students across the world to pass their examinations just like the lovely students above me, and in this video I'm going to take you through my exclusive SBL notes, so if you would like a copy for yourself, click the link in the description below and you can follow it through with the video. There are some really detailed areas, so make sure you get those notes down, they're definitely going to help on your exam day. I'm also delighted to say I'm affiliated and associated with Astranti. If you are to click any of the links down below, you can access their mock exam, pre-analysis packs, absolutely fantastic resources to help you pass and get the 50+. And for pure transparency as always on the channel, if you were to click any of the links below and purchase anything, I'd be entitled to a small percentage which goes to supporting the channel. So as always, a massive thank you. Get your pen and paper at the ready because we're getting into our first mistake you do not want to be making now, which is all about how and where the shoes are manufactured in the pre-C materials. First of all, we've got to go down to page 7. So if you've downloaded a copy of these notes yourself, easy peasy for you to follow it through. This is all about Dearn Shoes Ltd, you can see on the left hand side, and the key bit, no matter when you have started your revision, when it comes to the exam day, you have to understand that 15 years ago, I'll even put my mouse on the point, 15 years ago, Dearn's manufacturing was all based in a town called Lena on there. You'll see it from my highlighted bits on green. But this is the key bit. 15 years ago, they transferred most of its manufacturing to the country of Totland, retaining one small factory in Lena on there. Why did they do this? Well, it was for actually taking advantage of the lower costs. And this is where you've got to get your head around that, okay, 15 years ago, they've moved most of the manufacturing. We'll come on to where it has been going and which shoes it relates to. But look on the right-hand side now, where we have this key paragraph as to the relationship between Dearn and EXCO. So when they've moved the manufacturing overseas to Totland, they've used a third party called EXCO Limited to make the mass-produced shoes. And it was going really nicely. It was very positive, but over the last 2 years, there have been growing number of issues such as quality on there, the number of returns, faulty shoes, slow rising delays on there. So these are the sort of things that you've just got to wrap your head around in terms of the actual relationship between EXCO Limited, the overseas manufacturing, and the key bit here is that it was the majority of the manufacturing that has been moved and transferred overseas to Totland. So if you come up to page 3, this is a massive mistake that people are going to make on the exam day. I'll put my mouse on it on here for page 3. So the production of handcrafted shoes has not been transferred to the third-party manufacturers in other countries, in other words, it being outsourced to Totland, and they continue to be manufactured in Luckland. Now, what is that referring to in terms of handcrafted shoes? I'm going to put my mouse on it again. We've got the type 1 of shoes, which is formal shoes. They're the only handcrafted small or smart shoes, should I say, for adults and made in leather that are still made in Luckland. The rest, for semi-formal, casual and children's, are all outsourced to Totland through the company of EXCO Limited on there. So it's just something to be aware of, to make sure you do not make that mistake that the actual shoes that are still made in Luckland are the formal handcrafted shoes. We'll come on to the actual accreditation that links to as well. But then the rest are all outsourced. And if you got a question that linked into this, the final part for this area or mistake that you do not want to be making is who is accountable if you want to raise it as a point. And if you go down to page number 9 on here, you'll see you've got the officers on the left hand side and you are looking for the chief operating officer or the COO on there and they are accountable for this area. As you can see, the factory and warehouse in Luckland and the relationships with the outsourcing partners, which relates to EXCO Limited on there. So that is my first key area of a mistake that is going to be made by SBL students, mixing up what is made and outsourced overseas and what is still made actually handcrafted in Luckland, and the type of shoes that it relates to. Mistake number 2, because we are nicely going to come up to now page number 4. This is all about the market competition and the types of shoes on there. Okay, so on page number 4, we'll come back up to the top. In terms of the competition, these are the key names and the breakdown you can see on the right hand side. The key thing here is that 45% of the market share is shared between the 5 largest companies, and they've touched on that in the pre-seed materials on page 2. But the key names you have to get down are Rego, Flamingo, Dearn, who we're representing, Parrish and Betterby. They account for 45% of the market share, but don't overlook that 55% of the market share is all about smaller organisations on there. So again, something for you to get down in your notes. And the key bit here is that only Dearn and Parrish make formal handcrafted shoes on there. Really important for you to note that. I'll put my mouse on it on there, that they make, for Parrish, good quality formal shoes at a high price point. They're the only manufacturers of actual handcrafted formal shoes that compete with Dearn on it as well. So really important that you get that down. And the next key thing, so you can see where the pre-seed materials overlap, is the 9.4 that you can see on the right hand side for the share of Luckland market in 2004. Where have we seen that before, so that you don't have a misunderstanding of the sort of position and strategy of the business? If you go down to page 12, this is where again you'll see that 9.4% on the financial and non-financial information, and you can see year on year it's been dropping further and further and further. So 2004, that's where the 9.4% is for Dearn, and they are in a worse position as a result. Then if you come back up to page number 10 now, this is where you've got to really think on your feet when it comes to the pre-seed materials. You have not got time in the exam to go back and forth, hence why the notes you can see on here for the bits in blue, so you've got Parrish, Betterby and Rego on there, the ones who are the main competitors. You'll see that that is where Parrish is in the type of competitors and the products that are handcrafted for formal. So that's where Parrish on there is the market leader. And then you've got semi-formal, casual and children's, all mass produced. And you can see Betterby is one of the main competitors that we have for semi-formal shoes. And in terms of casual shoes, Rego is the market leader on there. So that is absolutely paramount in terms of where they are actually applied. And if you come back up to page 5 now as well, just on the last bit, you can see we've got a couple of the other names in terms of the challenges for the industry. So Flamingo leading the way in the area of the changing fashion trends, and Parrish emphasising on the heritage and the luxury areas of those types of shoes that we've talked about, that could link into a sort of pestle and SWOT analysis, but being aware of the competitors in the market, the types of shoes that they are dealing with, and where it links into the different areas. So plenty to wrap your head around, and it's definitely an area that students are going to make a mistake in the exam with a lack of understanding of how it's logistically working out for the different competitors. Area number 3 now. Mistake number 3, definitely for your notes, is forgetting the names provided which could come up and be applied on the exam day. So what am I getting at here? Well, the key thing here is, in the pre-seed notes, occasionally you get the odd company or name or something on those lines that they put in the pre-seed notes, and then it comes up as a requirement on the exam day. Students panic, and then they go, oh my word, where have I seen that before? Or they don't pick up on it, and they don't apply the area of the pre-seed notes that it relates to. The first name for you to get down is Kind Shoes Co., that you can see on the right hand side of the screen, which is on page 6 on there. And this is all about ethical shoes. They're an ethical shoe manufacturer. They are Luckland based on there. And this is a major opportunity that you could relate into, again, a SWOT or a pestle or a Porter's model being applied on there. That this is what the market is demanding, and therefore we should not overlook it in our analysis. So Kind Shoes Co. is a name you definitely have to get down and not to make a mistake on. The next one, if we come down to page number 10, I touched on it before but didn't mention their name, is a small manufacturer called Tiptoe in the children's type of shoe marketplace. So again, we're only told that Dearn's closest competitor is a small manufacturer called Tiptoe. We're not told if they are Luckland based as well, but again, it's come up as a company name on there. It's not mentioned, just like before with Kind Shoes Co Limited, in any other area of the pre-seen materials. So those two are definitely names you need to be aware of ahead of your examination, and not to overlook them, because it could be a mistake that they put it in a requirement and you don't know where it refers to. The next one is on the left hand side, where you've got Dearn on there. As you can see, Dearn Shoes Limited was founded nearly 100 years ago by Dermot Dearn on there. Lots of D's in that sentence. The bit where people are going to make a mistake on here is, of course, Dermot was the founder nearly 100 years ago, but the key thing here is when you go down to the share ownership, we're told that the founders of the family have 70% share ownership. They have no involvement in the management or how the company is being run. But what we're not told is how many of the actual Dearn founding family are involved in that 70%. So again, it's one of those little points as to something for you to raise in your discussions, or an area that could come up on the exam day in the unseen information, maybe in a sort of exhibit or small scenario, little paragraph, something like that, and it's going to throw off lots of students. So again, another area and mistake that could easily be put into play on the exam day if you haven't got your head around the founding family and we're not told who is part of that 70% on there. So that's mistake area number 3, forgetting the names provided and how they could come up on the exam day, and applying them in the answer that you provide to the requirement. Area number 4 now, in terms of mistake not to make on the exam day, is about Dearn Shoes Limited is not listed, but could be on here. So we're sticking on page 7 for your notes. I'll just scroll it up on here. I'll put my mouse on it. We're told it's non-listed, okay? The directors as well on there have also decided not to have an audit, nomination and remuneration committee. And the key bit for your notes here, it links back down to page 12, but to save you the hassle of looking down, Dearn has revenue in 2004 of $352.5 million on there. Now, why is this important? Well, the size and scale of the organisation for that level of revenue, that is a potential to become listed. How does that link into then areas or mistakes that could come up? Well, first of all, we're told about those competitors in the same market. So Dearn has 9.4%, but we're not told on here as to Rego, Flamingo, Parish or Betterby if they are also listed. So again, it could be another area that could come up on the exam day. And if it was to become listed, or maybe it was thrown in as a scenario to be listed, this will show up a student who, as you can see from page 8 on the right hand side now, we don't have enough non-executive directors based on the board structure and organisational structure from a corporate governance perspective, because you need at least half of the board should be non-executive directors if it was going to become a listed company on there. So definitely something to get down in your notes if it was going to come up, because it's going to then link into areas that you could relate to from compliance, disclosures, maybe they want to expand, looking at alternative areas of investment, all these sort of things. As you become a listed company, the exposure goes up and they could link it into the stakeholder groups and areas that we're told about. You can see just above, especially from EXCO, we've got the trade unions and the Luca Shoe Association on there. So really important areas in terms of it. And the last thing for those non-executive directors, we're given no information on their names, no information on their experience, and no information if they have anything to do with shoes whatsoever. So worth noting down on there, and that's why it's my mistake area number 4 about Dearn Shoes Limited is not listed, but it could be on there. Mistake area number 5 that you do not want to be making is all about the operations of Dearn Shoes Limited now. So first of all, this is just a little thing I went, oh my gosh, I nearly missed it myself. page 5 on the left hand side, we're given the breakdown of the revenue split for Luckland's footwear overall now. So this is overall. So online sales overall in Luckland, if you were to list every single seller, is 25% is to do with online sales. But this is the key thing. When you relate that back to Dearn Shoes Ltd, you need to go down to page 10. It's just one little sentence. I'll put my mouse on it so you can see it. Currently only 12% in millions of dollars on there is, so 12% of Dearn's total sales are online sales. So again, could link into a SWOT analysis, and you could be really specific as to, don't make the mistake of thinking it's 25% of Dearn's total sales are online from the breakdown I've just shown you. It's actually 12% on there. The next area in terms of their operations not to make a mistake on, and bear in mind, linking to page 9 on the left hand side now, there is no accountability, so there's no officer in charge of sustainability or in terms of the environment on there, in terms of their roles that have been given. So this is where ignoring the environmental and ethical aspects of the organisation on pages 5 and 6. So you can see on the left hand side about the processes of actually making the shoes in Luckland on there. We've been given about the greenhouse gases in 2004 in the bottom left of page 5. So these are just some of the trends that, if they do not actually address them, they are going to be at a severe disadvantage. And it can link into, again, you can see my pestle points on there, profitability margins, and on the right hand side, recycling initiatives. This could link back to Kind Shoes Co., who they said is a really good example of what people are moving towards and how it could be leveraged with technology on there. And the last final thing is anything to do with environmental or ethical, that accredited manufacturer can use the Made in Luckland mark on there. That is another mistake people are not going to apply because they actually have that accreditation. Do not overlook it. It is given in the actual pre-seed materials for the formal handcrafted actual, and I'll put my mouse on it there. So Dearn markets these shoes which have the MIL mark as handcrafted shoes, skilled labour. Remember, those formal handcrafted shoes are the only products still made in Luckland. The rest are mass produced overseas. So again, don't overlook that. And the final thing in terms of the operations, if we go down to page 12, I think lots of students are just going to forget when it comes to the exam day pressure that the customer satisfaction has been going down year on year on year. So it's currently at 7, and it was, the industry average is 7.5. Why have I got this down here? Well, we're not given any KPIs in the pre-seed materials. So again, they could provide it on the exam day, or you could note it as a really good point in your analysis. And in terms of who it can apply to, head straight back to page 8. Do not overlook those key stakeholder groups, whether it be EXCO Limited, the Shoe Association. Make sure you've considered the pros and the cons for each of those different stakeholder groups and where they could be applied on the exam day. And that takes you through my 5th mistake, the operations of Dearn Shoes Ltd, covering the last final little areas. Well, that takes you through my insights. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Be sure to give it a like, subscribe, keep in touch, let me know how you're getting on. And if you'd like a copy of my exclusive notes, click the link down below, along with those Astranti mock papers and pre-seed packs. They're definitely going to be the difference in getting you that pass and getting you the 50+. So be sure to hang around. I'll put another SBL video up at the top, and I'll see you on the other side now for some more insights.